a car decided to start up right outside my window and it has not left yet. Anyway. Hello friends, my name is Emily, I'm the bi, and here are some books off of my bookshelf. So today I'm going to talk about 5 books that I read this year for the first time that are all queer. Specifically, as I look at them, they're all bisexual, and all of them except for one are own voices with bisexual authors, which is excellent. Love that for us. I'm going to start with the least sexually explicit and then kind of end with the most sexually explicit, which is just like a BDSM romance series, and we'll just go from there. So with that in mind, the first book that I'm going to talk about is Kay Ancrum's The Wicker King. This is the story of Jack and August. They are childhood best friends. It's set in the 90s, so it's technically a period piece. Love that. It's also a mixed media book, and it also has like really short like chapters, but it has some photos and some like documentations. As you get deeper into the story, the pages get darker and darker, which I really like and think works really well thematically with what's going on in the story. So the story is this: Jack starts to see things. He starts to see creatures and lights and varying other things. The creatures start to talk to him, they whisper things to him. August, who is our POV character, is like, wow, I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't see or hear any of those things. Therefore, we as the audience don't see or hear any of those things. But August decides to kind of go along with it because he loves Jack and he doesn't, I think, really want to be wrong, or he doesn't want Jack to be wrong. Like, he would love it if Jack were the Wicker King, and so he kind of goes along with it and helps Jack with what may end up being a delusion, because Jack may have either a mental disorder or some kind of medical condition, and that's that. So there is a content warning for fire, there's some arson that happens, and a content warning for mental health issues, potentially. So if either of those things are things you don't want to read about, maybe not the book for you, but I really like it. It's beautifully written and extremely interesting, and I kind of wish there were more stories in this universe. Kay Ancrum is wonderful though. She is extremely cool. I follow her on Twitter. I want to read her other published book, which is The Weight of the Stars, which I think is also queer because she's bisexual and she's like, hi, I want to write queer stuff. And she is currently working on, I believe, a Peter Pan retelling, which is my third favorite thing that everybody does. If you watched my last video, my other 2 are Arthurian Myths, Journey to the West. So Peter Pan rounds out my top 3 of stories that people continuously retell. But it's gonna be queer as hell because Kay Ancrum, queer as hell. So The Wicker King. I really liked it. It was a really fast read for me, and I really enjoyed all of the characters, and the mixed media worked for me in a way that I wasn't sure it would when I started reading it, but I really liked it. Okay, next. This was a hard one to kind of decide which of the next 2 books would go next, but I think that The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid has less sex in it, maybe? This is a book that Megan, my best friend, has been trying to get me to read since she read it. And it's not really that I've been fighting her on it, I just haven't really had the drive to read until kind of recently. So I finished it. I finally picked it up and finished it. It's amazing and wow, so good. This is the only book that isn't own voices. To my knowledge, I'm pretty sure Taylor Jenkins Reid is just a well-writing straight girl, which is fine. We love her. This book is the story of Evelyn Hugo and Monique Grant. Monique Grant is kind of an unknown writer who is writing for like this random magazine. And Evelyn Hugo is auctioning off a bunch of her dresses for a cancer charity because her daughter just recently died of cancer. She requests Monique to be the person to come and cover, like do an interview with her to promote the sale of the dresses. And everyone's like, why Monique? She literally hasn't written anything. And so Monique goes and is like, why me? And she's like, well, actually, so here's the deal. You're gonna write my memoir, and we're gonna talk about my 7 husbands, and I'm gonna tell you about the love of my life. And that's for you, you know? Lots of twists and turns. It's about like old Hollywood. There's a lot of like queer solidarity in this book. Love it. And the twist at the end for why Monique got picked is buck-ass wild. And like, I remember snapping Megan and just losing my fucking mind. This book is so well crafted. It's beautifully written. It goes back and forth, which I thought was going to be confusing, but isn't, in different first person perspectives. So like the stuff in modern times is set in Monique's POV with like it's first person Monique. And then all of the flashbacks are first person Evelyn because she's telling the story. And then like the Monique stuff is first person present, and the Evelyn Hugo stuff is first person past tense. Thought it would be confusing. It is not, but it's very good. Bi as hell. Love that for us. Very, very good. Please read Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. The next book I want to talk about, the author posted on Twitter, she was like, oh my god, my book has only been out for 6 months, like feels like 80 years and also like 2 weeks, which I feel in my body because I have read it twice since it came out. I was like, it's only been out for 6 months? Oh no. And that is Casey McQuiston's Red, White, and Royal Blue. This, I wish I could read it for the first time over and over again, but also I reread it recently and you know what? Perfect experience. Love that. So I reread this book because it's amazing, but also because I'm writing sort of a new adult romantic drama for NaNoWriMo, or I don't know when this video is gonna come out. And so I reread it before NaNoWriMo so that I could mark stuff and kind of be able to look back and see how did Casey McQuiston kind of deal with this, because I think this book is perfect. So that's why I reread it and it's all marked up. Okay, so the story of this book is that Alex, who is our main POV character, is the first son. He is the son of the first female president in a what if the 2016 election wasn't a garbage fire. But like, his mom isn't quite Hillary Clinton. She, I would say, is a little more liberal than that, but that's beside the point. So he is the first son. And he has beef with the Prince of Wales, whose name is Henry. Also kind of a reimagining of that system as well, just a little bit. And so he has had beef with him since the Rio Olympics, I believe. At Henry's brother's wedding, Alex gets drunk and kind of gets into a weird physical altercation with Henry, and they fall and knock over the very, very expensive wedding cake. And so in order to do damage control so that it doesn't look like American sons are causing problems with foreign relationships, they're tasked to become best friends to the public. And so it is like enemies to friends and then to lovers, because that's the whole point. It is a very sweet kind of new adult, or just like not as smutty romance, depending on where you want to place it. There are sex scenes, but they're not like explicit. It is about the feelings of the sex scenes, not necessarily the sex scenes themselves, but they are quite steamy, I would say, especially for how big this book is and what's going on plot-wise. This book is just a rip-roaring romantic good time. I love every single character in this book. I also love that there are so many queer characters. Like, obviously you have Henry and Alex, but then you also have, there is like a senator who Alex is very good friends with, who is gay and like openly gay. And then there's also the first daughter, who is Alex's ex, who is like very openly bisexual and is the one who's like, yeah, maybe you're bi, I don't know. And then also maybe his sister is bi. There's like a whole thing, and it's also not a whole thing because it's literally a single moment, and I'm like, wow, I want that short story, but okay. I will probably reread it once or twice next year because I'm that bitch. So, love this book. If you haven't already read it, you should read it. It's amazing. Okay, the last two books I'm going to talk about are the Thorn Chapel series by Sierra Simone. So I have physical copies of them, which I bought at the romance bookstore in Culver City, The Ripped Bodice, which I love that place. It's so good. I do want to say, so the content warning for these are that they are BDSM, they are pure ass romance, like they are erotica essentially, and that there is incest in these books. It is not revealed until the end of the second book, but I would say that if you are not a person who likes fictional incest, if it is something that ruins a story for you, you just shouldn't read either of them. And that is my opinion. I am not a person who is bothered by fictional incest, and so it happening in this didn't bug me. And yeah, that's just me. I'm just that person. So if it does, don't read these, but let's talk about them a little bit. So like I said, they're both extremely sexy. They are basically just erotica, but they're also a really interesting, like, there's like a weird sort of mythology, magic sort of thing happening as well, where like Thorn Chapel, which is this giant estate, was probably, and like the town that they're in was probably home to like a sort of pagan sex ritual, which their parents maybe participated in, and then they themselves as adults, this group of 6 kids who grow up and then we re-meet them as adults, also participate in. The deeper the lore gets, the more sex there is, and I'm like, great, love this for me. All of the kids, basically one summer, their parents are all trying to like do a thing that probably has something to do with the pagan ritual thing. So one summer, they're all together at Thorn Chapel, which is an English estate owned by one of the kids' families. And they like kind of do like a weird marriage ritual because they're trying to play pretend like they're adults. And later they all come back together when the kid whose family owns the estate inherits the estate. And so they all kind of have their own reasons for coming back. One of them, the lead POV character, is a librarian who is hired to work on the library at Thorn Chapel and kind of do the archiving and restoration of it. One of them is an architect and she's helping Auden, who is the kid who owns Thorn Chapel, with the renovations. One of them is a priest in the town. One of them is a librarian and handyman in the town who just like never left. One of them is Auden's fiance. So like they all kind of have a reason to come back and be part of Thorn Chapel and kind of get sucked back into the kind of sexual pagan ritual stuff that's going on. And they all kind of are like, we're just gonna like do this, right? And it's great and I love it. Suspension of disbelief in the best possible way. So A Lesson in Thorns, Feast of Sparks. This is the first one, this is the second one. Thorn Chapel, I really liked. Again, if incest in fictional context is not your jam in any way, you shouldn't read these, but I really enjoyed them. I think they're good. I'm very excited about the next book. Anyway, those are the 5 new books that I read in 2019 that are all queer, specifically bisexual, because branding. Let me know if you have read any of them or if you are interested in reading any of them now. Let me know if you like them, if you didn't like them, and if you have any other queer recs, especially bisexual recs, let a girl know, because I'm always looking to expand my queer reads, you know?